The Quant network has finally released their full report on Project ROSILAND and has even revealed some new collaborations with central banks that were not originally disclosed. So in today's episode of the Everything Crypto Show, we are going to break down all of the central banks and major tech companies that the Quant team has been working with, how this impacts the Quant token, and what I am expecting next in terms of the price action. Now, before we hop into the content, just a friendly reminder that I am not a financial advisor. I am simply here for your crypto news and entertainment purposes. And if you do enjoy the content, please consider hitting that sub and like button and turn that notification bell on so you can be notified when all of our latest videos go live on the channel. So hopping right into the content, I do want to kind of preface this by covering the tweet that we saw from Gilbert Verdian. This was last June, okay? And this was when they had basically initially announced their work on Project ROSILAND. We did not see a full-on, sort of like published report for it, so we didn't have all the details, but we did have enough to recognize that this company was working with some very big names, some very big central banks, including the Bank for International Settlements, the Bank of England, and the Bank of Canada, and then some of the biggest tech companies and payment companies out there like Barclays, MasterCard, and Amazon, all of who built and tested new CBDC payment flows on the platform. And the platform they are referring to here, of course, is none other than the Quant Overledger. This is their patent pending, basically their distributed ledger technology that does utilize the Quant token to power multiple different use cases, which include the tokenization of assets as well as interoperability of these assets. So actually having the ability for these cross-chain transfers. And I do believe that that cross-chain transfers are going to be a big player in kind of the role of this future of finance. And I do think that the ability to actually enable cross-chain transfers is going to be massive moving forward. I do think the future is multi-chain. And especially when we're talking about central bank digital currencies, about these banks actually connecting private infrastructure, essentially private blockchains to public chains. They're not going to want to use a public chain or sort of like something that the public can have access to. They're going to want to use their own private network. And a perfect example of that is Onyx here by JP Morgan. So this is the world's first bank-led blockchain platform for the exchange of value, information, and digital assets. And we know they have actually been kind of working on making this interoperable with other chains. Recently, we saw them actually connect the Onyx blockchain to an Avalanche subnet using Layer 0. So we know that interoperability is going to be very important for the future of CBDCs. That is a massive use case for the Quant Overledger. And I do kind of want to hop now into the official article that we did just see shared a couple of days back. So directed by the BIS Innovation Hub, Project ROSILAND was an experiment that explored the development of a retail CBDC. It tested how application programming interfaces, or APIs, could facilitate retail payments in CBDCs and support in the exploration of innovative use cases. So essentially, the project looked at a public-private sector collaboration model. So looking at both the public sector and the private one for these use cases with four main objectives in mind. So functionality, investigating how APIs could enable a central bank ledger to interact with private sector service providers for safe and secure retail CBDC transactions. And then interoperability, so, discovering methods to achieve interoperability among various systems and applications. And this did involve kind of looking at the options, risks, opportunities, and trade-offs that are involved with actually delivering on this interoperability. So adoption, kind of exploring API functionalities that would enable this development and, enable CBDCs to be widely adopted. And then ecosystem, so just gaining insights on how this could all work together. So they do have a whole video here kind of breaking down exactly what happened. And we're not going to watch that video because we saw a really good thread here from Tokenizer, basically breaking down just the most important kind of infographics from that video. So for starters, we did actually see sort of like an unofficial announcement, I guess, of 2 new members that were actually working on Project ROSILAND, Worldline, and then another central bank in the form of Hungary's central bank, okay? So we're now seeing more of the internals behind the project. We knew about the Overledger enabling this API layered system, but did not know the full extent of all participants. And that does include Barclays for cash on delivery payments, MasterCard for CBDC enabled debit card, Amazon for cart checkouts settled in CBDCs, Bank of Canada for programmable wallets, Worldline for merchant financial services, and the Hungarian National Bank for identity services. And scrolling on down here, let me find where it was mentioned. Yeah, so basically what they were saying is, you know, following the actual successful implementation of Project ROSILAND, we saw the Bank for International Settlements unified ledger using the same API gateway architecture to actually interoperate and unify the ledger to other existing parties. And I think that's a massive deal, right? It's kind of connecting this blockchain infrastructure to legacy infrastructure, so they're not building again from the ground up, but rather just kind of connecting this existing framework and technology they have in place with the newer technology in the form of the blockchain. And that's exactly what the Quant Overledger does, but more specifically, the Quant token powers these use cases. So, you know, Quant is not a layer 1. It's not a layer 2, it's not a gaming token, it's not an AI token. It's simply a DLT token that powers a bunch of different use cases, tokenizing assets on the blockchain of your choice, allowing for these tokenized assets to be connected. And the Quant token does in fact play a role in this, okay? So if we actually scroll down here, then yeah, it says right here. So what is the purpose of the Quant token? Quant is a utility token. It is used as a form of payment for Quant services, most notably as a way for Overledger users to pay their fees, as explained in another article. Every developer and customer has to purchase a license and can also pay for transactions in Quant. Now, there's a really good infographic that does break all this down, so I'm going to go ahead and find that for you guys real quick. We're going to scroll down. I know I posted it, you know, somewhat recently. There it is right here. So Quant utility token overview. So enterprise licenses, Quant tokens must be provided to Quant network in exchange for an annual license. Developer licenses, identity and account. So a minimum Quant holding amount is put in place for every participant of the Overledger ecosystem. Transaction processing. So Quant tokens are used to validate, sign, and encrypt every transaction that flows through Overledger. And keep in mind, this is not like an official infographic from the Quant team, but this just kind of sums up, you know, the basic use cases for the Quant token. You know, all of which is kind of pointing at the fact that increased adoption of the Overledger does also, you know, actually necessitate more demand for the Quant token itself. And demand is definitely something that we do need to see here from the Quant token, you know, as we have kind of been moving sideways here for, I want to say, the better half of, you know, over a year and a half at this point, or just about a year and a half. And it's kind of become like a running joke within the Quant community that the altcoin is a stable coin, and whenever it moves away from $100, it's depegging. And I get it, you know, we haven't seen any serious movement from this coin for over a year and a half, although I will say that if we actually take a look at this coin from the bear market bottom, its performance is still pretty good. It bottomed out at $40 at the bear market lows. In and around here is when we started covering it a lot on the channel, and from there it proceeded to run over 5x in a bear market from $40 up to $228. Pulled back down to $100, saw another nice rally recently up to 150, so about a 50% move, and now we are back here at $100. So if you exclude these pumps it has gone on, if you have kind of just been holding it and not selling, yes, it effectively has moved sideways. Now, if we take a look at prior history, this is not something that is new to Quant, okay? I actually want to get the chart on TradingView because the chart I want to get the chart on CoinMarketCap because TradingView doesn't have the entire history of Quant. But in the last bull market, there was a very similar thing happening where the entire market was pumping. Quant was basically staying flat. People were calling it a trash project, saying that it was never going to move. And then out of nowhere, boom, Quant pulled a nice 10x from $40 in May up to about that $428 all-time high that it saw back in 2021. So Quant has done this before, and if I actually take a look at the technicals, it does appear like it may kind of be gearing up for a similar move again. So thank you. 10 years later, here is the actual chart. And you can see that, right? Like from February of 2021 all the way up until May, it was basically flat in between like $45 and $35 more or less. You know, even if you take a look here at previous price action history, and then you see a very fast move to the upside for Quant. Now, I do want to mention a couple of things. For starters, it has actually now 3 times bounced off this uptrending channel here that has really formed ever since it made that first run there back in 2021. It has also officially broken out of the downtrending channel that began with its 2021 peak. This is actually Quant on a log scale. So now what I'm eyeing is this right here is another validation of the uptrend before a continuation of the move to the upside. And I actually did tweet it here back in, this was in early December. I said Quant has one of the cleanest setups out there right now in my opinion, respecting its uptrend since 2021 while breaking out of its downtrending peak that began with that 2021 peak, shaking out weak hands and impatient traders chasing other alts. Looks prime for a breakout to me. Obviously not financial advice. And then boom, we saw a couple of weeks later, this project ran from that $85 bottom that it saw at the uptrending channel. It was at $100 back when we tweeted that on December 8th. It ran up to $150, which we did have as an area of resistance, and that was documented here on Twitter. So, in my opinion, long term, I do still like the way this chart looks. This does seem very similar to the way it was in the last bull run, and that bull run concluded with Quant making a nice 10x. Now, additionally, I do want to mention that to me, Quant looks a lot like the Chainlink chart did prior to its breakout. This is another coin that we spoke about on the channel when it was kind of trading range bound. So let's take a look at Link real fast. Yeah, the Coinbase chart. And yeah, you can see here, right, like Chainlink also was consolidating in this range for about 500 days or something like that. Like it was almost a 2-year period, over a year and a half where Chainlink was essentially in this range. We finally saw a breakout above that range. All the selling pressure had been exhausted, and boom, from that range bottom at $5, Chainlink is now about a 4x, currently sitting above $20. So I do believe that Quant looks very similar to the way Chainlink did back here, and we know how this worked out for Chainlink. So personally, I do expect a very similar scenario for Quant. I'm really just waiting for that breakout out of the range to occur. So on that note, I hope you did enjoy the content in today's video. You know what to do if you made it all the way to the end. Let me know in the YouTube comments down below and claim that champion status. I hope you are all staying happy, safe, and healthy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.